Okay, I have a couple of other stories that I want to quickly share with you because I want to relay the power of building business credit and tell you exactly how important it is, which I'm sure you already know, otherwise you wouldn't even be bothering listening to this or even gotten to the point where you found the system to be able to build the business credit. But I just want to show you the importance of being able to change your financial future. But again, you are to use this corporate credit or this business credit, and I will use those terms interchangeably, but they mean the same thing. Business credit and corporate credit are one and the same. But I want to stress to you the importance of using this for the purpose of building business and not for any other personal gain in any way other than to build a business which will build your financial future. So you are not to be using business credit for personal means, including purchasing your personal home, personal vehicles for personal use, or anything like that. Because I want to stress the importance that's the fastest way for people to get into trouble credit wise is when they start purchasing things that are unnecessary for the purposes of personal use when they don't have any means to pay for it. Like, for example, a successful business that's profitable that would be able to pay for these items. And that's when people get into trouble. In fact, that's usually when people get into trouble with their personal credit as well. So I just want to stress the importance and remind you that you are going to be using this for business purposes only and no other reason. Another story I want to share with you is a lady that I knew long, long ago. She's been a family friend of ours for a while, and she was always trying to get into some kind of business. She was actually in a MLM business. I think it was New Skin or something like that, and she was struggling to make that business work. And I don't know if you know a lot about multi-level marketing, but my experience with multi-level marketing hasn't really been 100% positive so far. And if anybody could ever challenge me with that, with an opportunity, and this is not a solicitation for people to be emailing me a ton of opportunities, but if somebody could actually show me proof that they've actually made a significant amount of money with MLM or network marketing, I'd certainly be willing to listen. But I'm not listening to a pitch or anything like that from anybody, so this is not an open invitation for that. But I know there's a possibility of making tons of money in MLM because I've heard of people doing it, but I haven't personally been able to make anything like that work. So when my good friend came up to me and was complaining that she could not make her New Skin business work that she had been in for, I don't know, a ridiculous number of years, like 5 or 6 years. And I told her, it's obviously not working. You're in this business for 6 years now, and you're not seeing any kind of profitability. In fact, the amount of money that would come in would cover her required auto ship payments that she had to have a certain amount of inventory that she had to pay for in order to be able to get any money from them. There was just a whole thing that a lot of network marketing. Okay, so your first step obviously in this process is to start a corporation or an LLC in your home state. And if you've already done that, then we can skip this part for you. Just listen to me though for a couple minutes because it's not going to take that long for me to go through this element to get started. If you already have a business, then that's a good thing, unless, of course, you've already started using it for business credit and have damaged that business credit in any way. For example, if you have a business credit card that you've stopped paying on or don't have a good payment history with, then you're probably going to have to start the whole process over. And starting the whole process over is going to entail getting a new corporation, not trying to get a new EIN or anything else. So if you believe that you've damaged some of your business credit already, then you don't want to carry on with that business. You want to start over with a clean slate. So to actually start a corporation, I recommend a company called AmeriLawyer.com. They're online and they don't do all states in the country. In fact, they have a handful of states that they will do and a handful of states, that they won't do. So I do recommend AmeriLawyer.com because they're really fast and proficient in setting up corporations. I've set up numerous corporations with them, and they're very fast. I am in the state of California, and while other companies like LegalZoom and some of the other online. Okay, I want to start the process of now starting to tell you and show you how to set everything up so that you can maximize your leverage in purchasing real estate properties for the purposes of investment, but minimizing your risk at the same time. Now, I had spoken a little bit about how after a certain point you will hit a wall If you're using your personal credit, usually banks will not allow you to purchase more than 3 or 4 real estate properties for investment purposes under your own personal credit. And then you'll start to find that there's a lot more difficulty in finding funding after that because of the debt to income ratio factors that they use. So the reason I'm recommending that you start the process of investing in real estate using business credit, I mean, I'm talking about from the get-go, is so that you don't find that you're going to be hitting a wall as fast as you would normally with your personal credit. Now, even though business credit is a nice way of not having to use your personal credit to personally guarantee a property, especially in the event of getting a non-recourse loan, which a non-recourse loan is when, if for whatever reason you cannot make the mortgage payments on the property anymore, they will not go after you personally to collect on the debt, and it will not affect your personal credit in any way if you do go into foreclosure on the property. So that's a non-recourse loan, which is the majority of what you'll be getting out there when you're getting real estate properties for investment purposes. Now, when initially setting everything up for your real estate business, there's a couple different things that have to happen here. Real estate is a little bit different the way you have to minimize your risk, because there's going to be a couple different types of corporate structures that you're going to have to utilize to both build business credit but also minimize your risk at the same time. And there's a couple different ways that you can do this. If you're purchasing properties that are going to be out of state, meaning that it's not in the state where you are functioning as a business or in the state that you are living right now, you're going to have to get different LLCs or S Corps for specific states that you are purchasing properties for, but you do not get those S Corps or those LLCs until you're in the process of purchasing property there. So for example, if you're in California and you know that you're going to be buying property in Texas, it's not a wise idea to run out and get an LLC in Texas or an S Corp in Texas if you don't have any deals lined up, or you don't even have an offer accepted or anything like that. So I don't recommend that you do that. What I do recommend for the purpose of starting the process of building business credit is that you right now get either an LLC or an S Corp in your home state right now. That will be a corporation that will act as an umbrella for the rest of your corporations. And let me explain how an umbrella works. An umbrella works in the capacity of being one entity that is over all other entities. And to really properly structure everything, initially I just want to see you get an LLC or an S corporation, and any company that sets those up professionally can tell you the difference between a C Corp, an S Corp, or an LLC. I recommend an S Corp only because of the tax limitations, the double tax limitations of a C Corp. I usually don't recommend a C Corp at all unless you have a really good reason or you're a publicly traded company or whatnot. There's really no other reason for a C Corp unless, of course, you want to end your fiscal year on any other day except December 31st, because for an S Corp, your fiscal year will always end December 31st. And some people find it beneficial to have a C Corp end, say, June 30th every year, to be able to toggle and defer profits back and forth between two companies. But that's just a very complicated topic for me to discuss right now, and that's really not what we're here for. So the only two types of entities you should be considering would be the S Corporation and an LLC, okay? And if you don't have anybody else to partner with you, you don't have a partner to add to your LLC, then you should probably just consider an S Corp if it's just going to be yourself, okay? So you're going to have your umbrella corporation, which is going to be in your home state, and it's a corporation that I strongly recommend that you get set up right now. It doesn't matter what you call it, but for added extra protection, I don't recommend that you use your own name if possible. Use something that's completely disconnected and unrelated to you in any way. It doesn't have to be something real estate, investing, or anything like that. In fact, I strongly recommend that you pick out names where people, if they hear the name, cannot figure out what you do. So Obviously, if you have a name that's, Sanford, Junkyard, Inc., obviously people are going to know, well, you have a junkyard, or, I mean, it identifies the business. If you have something like, ZLY Direct Inc., that's something that you cannot identify. So if you're really hard up with trying to figure out a good name, you could use maybe your initials, your kids' initials. It doesn't matter, what you decide to use. As long as it doesn't directly link or identify you. I've had people, use a different last name that's not even related to them, or their great-great-grandfather's last name, that's not their last name. So, it's up to you what you want to do as far as that goes. But I strongly recommend that you pick something that sounds really professional, sounds really solid, but does not really directly link you to any specific type of business, okay? So you don't have to put real estate holdings in there. You don't have to put any of that stuff in there because that's not necessary. So that's one of the first orders of business. I'm assuming you probably either do have an LLC or an S Corp in place. If you don't, you're probably in the process of starting one, and that's fine either way. If you have an LLC or S Corp already in place, make sure that you do not have any negative credit that you've built up on it yet, because if you did, you're going to have to start over with a different one. Eventually, as time goes on, you're going to want to stick your umbrella corporation in a trust, and you could do that later. That's not something that you need to do right now. You can do that as soon as you start acquiring assets. You could stick your main corporation in a trust, and an attorney can do that for you. I do recommend that you have an attorney do any kind of trust transactions. I don't recommend that you try to use some kind of half-assed company online to do that for you. You could use an online company to set up a corporation because that's not really too complicated. It does not require an attorney to do that. But any kind of trust transaction does need an attorney. So eventually later on you're going to stick your umbrella corporation in a trust, which will further protect your assets. Okay? Now, in relation to your other smaller corporations that you're going to be putting underneath your umbrella corporation, those will show up as you purchase property. I have this one colleague of mine who's rather uncreative, but he has a lot of office buildings, and that's basically what he specializes in, is office buildings, but also medical buildings. And I don't agree with the whole purchasing medical buildings methodology, because I don't believe that the smaller private practice is where our future is going. I believe that the future of medicine, especially with all these healthcare debates going on and so forth, I believe that the future is with larger companies like Kaiser Permanente, Facey Medical, larger medical service entities, and not the private practice anymore. So I don't agree with his methodology. In fact, we had just had a conversation about it 2 years ago, and he had even mentioned to me that I was right about the fact that, the private practice is dying as these larger companies are coming in to perform medical procedures. The only exception would be for like plastic surgeons, or very, very highly specialized type of medicine. But, overall, the private practice is actually dying. And so I don't really agree with doing medical buildings for a number of reasons. One, the future of medicine as far as the private practice goes, as I just discussed, is really uncertain. And number two, a lot of doctors expect you to have specific types of things in there for them to be able to operate as a clinic, including installing sinks and specific types of rooms with certain types of cabinets, and they actually do expect you to come in out of pocket before they move in to make all of these changes. So it actually is costly, and there's really not a big benefit of having a medical building, in my opinion. Companies take forever to set up a California corporation. AMERA lawyer is usually able to do it within 2 to 4 weeks, which is very, very fast. And I've used a number of different corporation companies to set up corporations, and they are AMERA lawyer by far is the fastest. they do also have attorneys on staff to be able to set up your corporation, as well as answer any specific questions that you have about setting up your corporation. And that's one of the other reasons why I like them, is because they actually do have proficient staff in corporate law that can help you out if you have any questions. So the states that they do handle, just to save you time, are the following. They handle Florida, Nevada, Delaware, Illinois, California, New Jersey, and New York. So if you're not in any of those states, then don't worry about using a mirror lawyer. And the best I can tell you, excuse me, without giving you any specific recommendations, is that if you're not in any of those states, go ahead and type in Google, your state, for example, Wyoming, and then put corporation services or incorporating in Wyoming, and you'll have a million people come up and offer to set up your corporation. Generally, to set up a corporation, it's anywhere from $100 to $300, depending on the types of services that you decide to get. You do have to talk to someone from a legal standpoint to be able to help you decide whether or not you want a C Corp, S Corp, LLC, whatever. But I will tell you from experience, from my personal experience, without giving you any legal advice, which I'm not allowed to do, is from my personal experience, I've always chosen S corporations, and the reason being is because you don't fall under the same taxation laws as you do with a C Corp. A C Corp, you are taxed on two different levels. You're taxed on the profits of the business, and then when the profits flow down to you personally, you're then taxed again on those profits. With an S Corp, the corporation pays absolutely nothing for any of the profits in the corporation. So every year when you state that you have a certain amount of money in profits, all of those profits flow down directly to you, and then you as an individual have to pay for the profits in your personal tax statement. So that's the difference. That's the main difference. But again, without getting involved in a lot of different, legal counsel at this point, that's something that you would have to discuss directly with someone who's setting up your corporation to give you a better perspective on exactly how it works. And then the difference between an LLC, of course, and an S Corp is an LLC is usually generally when you have more than one person in the company that you want to have equal partnership with. Like maybe a partner, an equal partner, or maybe several partners. And if you do not have partners and you want to just use yourself, then you might want to consider doing an S corporation instead of an LLC. Okay. So LLCs also provide a little bit more extra protection, but again, you would have to discuss, what the added protection would be with an attorney, and just about any attorney or any company that sets up LLCs or corporations would be able to tell you the main differences between an LLC and an S corporation. So with that aside, when you set up your corporation, it's strongly recommended that you have the incorporation service set up an EIN for you. An EIN number, is an employer identification number that's like the social security number of your corporation. This is to be used for tax reasons only. A lot of people misconstrue what an EIN is used for, and it's used for tax purposes only. You do not use it to build credit. So the only person, or the only, entity that should ever see what the EIN is, obviously, is the IRS. But of course, when you're setting up your company through Dun & Bradstreet, which is dnb.com, they would also ask you for your EIN as well. And you're going to have other people ask for your EIN when you're setting up a merchant service to be able to accept credit cards, if that's what your business does, and so forth. You're going to have other entities ask you for your EIN. But when you're applying for credit, you should only be using your Dun & Bradstreet number, which is a number that DNB will actually give you when you set up your file with them or your profile with them. So that's the first things that you need to know, is that you are going to be setting up a corporation or LLC. You're going to be getting an EIN, and then you're going to be getting a DNB number at that point. Okay, so we've talked about some of the basic groundwork. One of the things that I wanted to also share with you is that if you're a foreigner, you're not a U.S. citizen, and you want to set up a U.S. Corporation, you can very well do that. There's many companies out there that will be able to, set up a corporation for someone who's not part of the United States. If you're not an American citizen, but you want to purchase real estate in the United States, then you will have to do so under an LLC or corporation anyway. Um, Same with starting a business in the United States. You have to start a corporation or LLC in the United States, but you're probably going to be required to have what's called a TIN. That's a taxpayer identification number, because that would be assigned for those who do not have American citizenship or do not have a Social Security number. And in addition to your EIN, you'll probably have to have a TIN, which is a taxpayer identification number as well. But again, when you're setting up corporate services, incorporation services through a corporation formation company, they should be able to explain all of that stuff to you. But I just wanted to let you know that if you do want to do business in the United States and you're not an American citizen or do not have a Social Security number, you don't have to let that stop you. You can actually partake in a lot of the opportunities that are available in the United States, as long as you're able to set up your corporation properly, by U.S. standards. And there's a lot of corporation services even that offer mailbox addresses if you don't have a U.S. Mailing address. There's also services that shield your name if you have other problems. Say, for example, you have a lot of personal problems as far as IRS liens against you, or a bankruptcy that you don't want anybody to know about your current business that you have, or that your new business that you're setting up. You might want to consider some of the protection services that some of these corporation formation companies offer, as far as using their name or their business name on all of the corporate documents that are filed, to shield you from having anything shown, as far as if you're in any kind of divorce proceedings, or if you have an IRS lien or a judgment or anything like that. And you might want to protect what's being viewed as far as who owns the company and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of services out there that allow that. So setting up a corporation for the purposes of credit is important, but also to be able to shield some of your other assets and protect you from other problems that you might be having as far as with the IRS, because so many different things happen to people. Maybe someone sued you and you have a judgment against you personally. Maybe the IRS put a lien against you for whatever reason. Maybe you're going through a bankruptcy or a divorce, and you have other pending issues, whether they're resolved or not, that could possibly take out your business, especially if you become profitable at any time in your business. They're the first people in line with their hand out to collect. And so, there are ways to protect yourself from that, from being monitored so closely. Because let me tell you, people that have a judgment against you, especially a government judgment like an IRS lien or something, they're not looking very closely at your personal assets. Maybe they'll do a sweep every so often where they'll try to say, okay, well, what does Joe Blow have in his bank account today? You know what I mean? But they don't do much more work than that. I mean, it's the government. They're not going to be, turning over, rocks and leaves to try to find any, change that you might have to pay them. But, you want to make it as difficult as possible for people to find stuff on you, especially when you start making a lot of money. Trust me, people come out of the woodwork, even family members come out of the woodwork, trying to get money from you and suing you and that kind of thing. And you want to protect yourself as best as possible. Businesses, companies require. And so she was just complaining that she just wished that she could make this whole thing work better. And so, she had a really good idea, actually. She wanted to start a business with her own cosmetics, because I don't know if you're aware of what Nu Skin does. If you're in the MLM or network marketing, you probably know that Nu Skin, I think they do a lot of skincare products, Nu Skin, obviously, but I think they also do cosmetics too. I'm not sure of that 100%. I didn't know really what their whole line was about. I really wasn't interested, but I do know for sure that they have some really high quality, I think it's Swiss-made skincare products. And so, she wanted to create her own line of products, and she actually had this guy who she met at, I don't know, some kind of seminar or something, and he had a company that was able to formulate specific types of ingredients to be able to create a line of skincare products. And she was really excited about the prospect of being able to do this, because she knew she had the contact. She thought it was meant to be that she found this guy to be able to do this for her. And so she just did not have the money to be able to put into developing this product, because I think he was requiring um, an initial fee of like 30 to 50,000 just to be able to formulate a special ingredient for her that she would be able to formulate for her line that she had. Plus, she wanted to hire an attorney to trademark a specific name for her line of cosmetics, and that costs money too. I mean, trademarks don't cost a lot of money, but when you're having an attorney set things up, it's never cheap. So she had this whole plan, and I thought it was an excellent idea. And I told her, you know what, why don't you build some business credit? She had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. She's like, business credit, what's that? I'm like, well, I mean, obviously, when you start a business, you're going to start a corporation of some kind, which she also didn't have because, being in the MLM business, she didn't need a corporation, or didn't think she needed one anyway, which there's a lot of people in MLM that do have corporations, but she knew absolutely nothing about it. So I gave her just a very simple step-by-step plan on how to do it. It took her a little longer than most people that I coach on doing this to actually set up the business credit, because she didn't, I don't think she took it seriously or understood the power of what she could accomplish by setting it up, but she did begrudgingly follow the steps. And her first step, obviously, was to start the corporation because she didn't have one, get her EIN, and then, of course, start her Dun& Bradstreet profile with them, which, if you don't know what Dun& Bradstreet is, it's basically like a credit reporting agency for businesses, just like Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion is for personal credit. And so she started her whole profile, and within 6 months, she was able to build a pretty good amount of business credit. Not what I would like to see. It was a little on the low side, but she was ecstatic nonetheless. She was able to get just under $100,000 in credit between business loans and business credit cards. And it was enough to be able to get her started with paying the $50,000 fee to formulate her ingredients, actually get an inventory, and she ended up setting up a website, had a help of a marketing expert come in, and was able to pay for the marketing expert through her business line of credit. And she was able to start a successful cosmetic company online. And she's doing an exceptional job. Her numbers aren't as good as what I think are a phenomenal business, but her profit levels are really good. I mean, I think she profits at least double. So if she puts in, $50,000 in inventory a month, she'll sell 100,000. So she doubles her money, and she's okay with that. She doesn't have these really lofty goals that a lot of people have. So her numbers, were under $500,000 last year, I think. But it was her first year out, and she's doing much better this year. But none of that would have been possible without the business credit. In fact, she would have still been struggling with Nu Skin, wondering why it's not working, and going to meeting after meeting after meeting, seeing these different MLM success stories and wondering why she can never be like that. And now she has her own line of cosmetics. In fact, she's talking about doing some makeup. She tries to do things along the lines of Rachel Perry, and I don't know if you're familiar with Rachel Perry, but everything's like all natural, nothing in the ingredients that would damage the skin or anything like that. And so she's really along the lines of doing everything natural. And she's also now starting to put her line in Whole Foods and some of the other, I guess you could say health food stores, but the main chains like Mother's and Whole Foods and that kind of thing. So she's actually doing really well, and I can actually see that this company will do phenomenally once it's set up properly. She just doesn't have a lot of business experience, but now that she has the financial backing to be able to work her dreams in the manner that she sees fit, she actually is starting to have people that are experts come in and show her the ropes on how this works. And so she's able to afford that now, as opposed to before when she did not have any business credit. She was unable to afford even having experts and consultants come in to guide her through the process of developing a very profitable business. So again, just another example. I have a lot of different examples like that, but I don't want to waste all the time that we could be working with building your business credit. I just want to give you examples of how this works, of how powerful this can be, and what a short amount of time you need to actually set all of this up. Some people will tell you you could set up business credit within a couple days. That's a little extreme. Some people could tell you, you know what, all of those people that say that you could set it up within a couple months are liars. You actually need years and years and years. And so I'll actually tell you what the real scoop is as far as exactly how much time you need, exactly how to do this successfully, because some people, the reason it takes so long is because they didn't set it up properly in the beginning. And yes, it will take years and years if you don't know what you're doing, and if you're not setting up the entire system properly from the beginning, then you're going to have to backtrack a lot, and that's going to take a lot of time. So we want to do everything right from the get-go, and I'm going to teach you how to do that.